test。好 ，OK。那can everyone see my screen here? So okay, good. Okay, so let's just take a look at what we are going to teach today. So today we are going to talk about DOM. So as we have like emphasized before, so every HTML tag is like an object. So today we are going to use JavaScript to get access to these objects. And so first we will just like simply create an HTML and like a p tag here. So 我们现在就很简单，先创一个东西出来。So for p tag we may have an ID, so I just call it p1. And for class we may just call it parent or whatever else. And now what we want to do is to get access to the element inside the paragraph here. So I will just use the JavaScript, the script tag here, because I'm not going to write really big projects, so I won't have external JS file for here. And the most intuitive way, so in this document, we want to get the element by the ID. So here we have an ID called P1. So what we want to get, we will just write P1, and we would like to get its inner HTML. 就是这边基本上就是拿它里面的元素了，就是 p tag 和 p tag 里面中间这个1、2、3。对，那这个方式就可以让你取得到这个东西。So this is the way how we get access to the text node of this p tag. So here we will just like create a like variable to store the value of it. So here, and we can check if we have actually get the value of it. So for here, we will just use console.log to check if we have actually get what we want. So let's check. So for here, we have what we write. We have 1, 2, 3 here, and we check the console.log. It actually returns what the HTML tag, the p tag has is 1, 2, 3. 所以它这边就 console.log 就选出了我们想要取得的这个 HTML 这个 object 里面它所含的 inner HTML，就是它里面它所显示的文字这样。那but not only by ID, we can also by what we also have a class name, right? So by class name, but class is quite different from ID. Is class is not unique. So for here, take notice of here we have plural form because we may have lots of class with the same class name, but what we write we won't have several tags with the same ID name, right? We want the ID is just unique. So for here, class will add an S, and since we may have a lot of, so we'll use index 0 to say, oh, this is the first element that with the class name which is paragraph. So we just write paragraph because we here have declared the class name as paragraph. Okay, so for here we will just run as usual. We get the element of it. Now the other way we can also by tag name. So similarly as tag name. So similarly as the class name, we will use the tag, and the tag name is p, and also the first p tag we have, so it's 0. So now here we also get the result here. Okay, and another way to get is by the query selector. So other way to use it is also in this document, and we want to use the method which is query selector all. And in here we may say, oh, what we want is the p tag. So there may also have a lot of p tags. Also we will have 0 index to indicate that we want the first element of it. And what we want is the inner HTML as the same. 所以这边基本上也是跟上面的方法是几乎一样，只是用不同的 method 去拿到我们想要的东西。那这边就跟他讲说我们要 p， 然后第一个就是 the 0 index indicates the first p tag, so the inner HTML. So actually you'll run as usual. So we also get the HTML we have. So 都可以，就是so other than p, just tag name, we may also have the class name, right? So for here, what we have emphasized before during the CSS class is for class we will use dot, and for ID we will use 井字号, right? I'm not sure, but for class name we will just write like this. Okay, so you run as usual. And for not this one. For the ID we will use this. I'm not sure how to say this in English, but yeah, you just run as what we expect here, right? So it's also 1, 2, 3. So the class will use dot, and for ID we'll use this. And if you have like a parent component like a div here, and here, so the p tag is the child component of the div. So we may write like something we want the child component of the div. So we can also write something like this to get the element we want. OK, 那这边就是简单的跟大家简单的暖身一下，就是说我们要怎么去 取得就是 get access 到这些object 里面。那简单说 get element， 那或是 query selector all， 那当然就是从 tag name， 然后从 parent 到 child， 然后跟tag 点 class 或是 p 就是tag， 然后井字号 id 这样的方法都可以取得。So after our warm up, we will take a little bit review about the form. So during our HTML class, we have simply talk about the form tag here. So before the form tag, we may want the input from the user to get the information what user may provide us. And the most intuitive way is to say, oh, we have an input and you can give us something like a text. And we may also have a button. We also have a button to tell it you can submit your answer or whatever else here. So here is a simple way you can write it here and submit. But what we want to do here is that we are trying to use, how to get the value of the input tag here. So by what we have learned, so also the script here, and we may want to get the access to get element by ID. So by ID, we need to declare the ID of it, right? So ID, we just call it in1, okay? And we get it. And what we want to get is its value. 那这个 value 就是它那个使用者所输入的那个数字，这边讲。然后so when we need to show the value, so 这边会先讲一下，就是说我们之前讲 button 的时候，我们讲到 onClick 这个东西，就是说 when we click this button, and what we want it to do is to fire a function. We need to declare it actually. So I will just call it the function the show function to show what we have submit to it. So so for here we need to declare the function show, right? So we can simply write show function, and what we want to do is, in a way, this is the answer of it, and we can also show it simply to the console.log here. And let me check it. So here you will just, when we click the button submit, it will show what we have typed it in the input here. So we type 1, 2, 3, it will show 1, 2, 3 here, just as what we expect. Oh, hello. Yo. Okay, so for here we just get the input. But back to our topic today, we want to simply review about the form tag. So how to get access, how to write a form. So for here we just omit the action here, because when we talk about action, the action is what we want the form, the data of the form to go to what page, and it will be associated with some backend technology. 所以它会跟一些后端有关，就是 action 它基本上就是它会说你希望把这个表单传到哪个网页之类的。那这个的话我们就先不用去讲。那讲到 action 对应的就是 method， 就是说你要用什么样的 method 去点到它。那 but for here we just want to simply get what we have in the form purely in front end and via JavaScript. So we'll just omit here. And for form tag, we'll just simply include here. And when we use the form, we will usually in this input, we will usually write submit. So here it will just purely shows the submit and the input field here. So for here, when we want to fire out this function is when we submit, when we press the submit button. So here we can use when we submit this, we hope you to fire off the show function here. And for here, we will just use, we can actually review about a little bit about document.write. When we press answer, we will just write the answer of it. So for here, we press ASDF, and it shows the ASDF here. And you may be curious about why it changed the page, but it is just because of the form tag, the form 的一些特性啊。但这边的话，只是想要跟大家讲说，我们怎么去 get access 到 form 的资料，所以我们这边就先不多谈它为什么这样。对 ，OK， so the other way to get access to is by another way, which is because this is a form tag, so we can actually write the answer is equal to the document, the forms of the document. And inside here, there may be a lot of forms, so maybe the first form of it. And for the element of the forms, we may want it the ID here, and we just put it as usual, the value of it. And here it will just run as usual. That's what we expect here, right? So this is just another way. And also you can use the concept of the array, double array. You can also write it this way. So in one like this. And you can also write it, if you have declared the ID of it, you can write it like F1, whatever. And here, besides you use index, you can also write the ID name of it. So this way, you also show as usual. That's what we expect here. So here is just a little bit review about the form tag and teach you how to get access to the information that user provided via the form. 对，那这边就只是前面就只跟大家简单暖身嘛，就是最简单去取得 HTML 里面的一些 element、一些 node 的元素。那接下来就是跟大家讲 form 的取得，也顺便复习一下了。就算是今天算是一个比较多复习，然后跟做一个统整的一个部分。对 ，So next. What we have like talked about before is that we can actually do what we do in HTML via JavaScript. We can change the content of the HTML purely by JavaScript, not by changing the HTML manually, right? So we can also, like what we have done before here, we'll just use the simply just p tag here. So 1, 2, 3, whatever, and also we can have the ID name of p1. So we can also have a button for us to fire off the change option. So for now, we may want to like change the content of the p tag here. So when we click this button, we want it to fire off like a change function to change the content of this. So here we will just write another function, right? So we will just write a function which is change, and what we want it to do is to change the content of this p tag. 所以我们不想要让我们现在想要改变说让它从1、2、3给它改成另外一种，就是我们想要显示的东西。So how to get access to this 1, 2, 3, the text node of this p tag? So what we have to say is document, and we can get element by ID. So the ID is p1, and we want to change its inner HTML to like whatever. We can say this is a new node, whatever, and that's it. So we can check it. It becomes a new node. So this is how we can change the HTML via our JavaScript. And not only p tag, we can also change other things like if we have an image tag, right? So for image, we may have, let me see what feature. Okay, code garage, whatever. We can use code garage. And for here, we, of course, not going to change the inner HTML. We are going to change the source of it. When we change the source, the image will, of course, be different, right? So for here, we'll just change the source, and for here we can just like we can use tag name, and for tag this is image, right? And because there may be several images, so beware to put the index here, and we can change the source to let me see what picture I have. CSS. Okay, we'll just do CSS picture. Okay, so document image here. So it may work as what we expect. Change element and change to the picture of CSS. All right. And of course, we can also change other things like for here, you may see like for image, we may also have alternative, which when the image path doesn't work. So for this, we may just say old, and we'll just pretend we doesn't have the picture. So it will just show the old one. And we can also change this alternative by changing the source, the property here. And we can just say this is new. So when you press it, it becomes new. So there's several properties inside the tag, and we can just use these ways to change the property of it. Okay. So that's for the content of HTML. Is there any questions? Till now, 现在有问题吗？现在应该还可以。So next, after we change the HTML, now we want to change the CSS, which is the style of HTML. So just like what we have done by changing the content of HTML. Here we just need to change a little bit. We need to just add, because what we want to change is the style, right? And for a picture, we may want to change its width because the picture is actually too big, what we see, right? And we can just change it to like 10 pixel, whatever. And because it logo, let me change it back. So this is a really large picture, and we want to change it to the small one. So when we press the change button, it fires off the change function. And the change function does is to change the width of this image, the first image of it, to 10px. So this is how it works. So we can also change like the first p tag, and we will want to change its color. And like whatever, we can change it to red. So when we press the change button, it becomes red. So similarly, you can change whatever CSS style you want via this. Oh, and by the way, if you may want to change the background color of it, and intuitively you may write something like this. But because of this is the the rule of JavaScript, hope in this way, we don't want the dash to happen. We will just simply use the upper letter to replace it. So we will write something like this. The dash will become the uppercase of C, and it will change the background color of it. So 这边就跟大家讲一下，就是说你可以从这边自由的选定你要 change 什么 style 没有问题，但是如果你有遇到像是 dash 的话，你会发现它不能 work， 但单纯只是因为就是这边它不希望，就因为它都是一个点一个点去 get access 到不同的那个 object， 那不希望再多加一个 dash， 这样会不好读吧，还是怎么样？反正他们这边语法就会希望你用大写的方式来去写。All right, so okay, that's it for the changing the style of it. Oh, another one. So here's some like special property I figure out when I'm preparing for this tutorial. 有这个是我在写的时候发现，它其实可以改，有一个叫 visibility, and we can change this visibility to like hidden. So when we press the change, it disappears, but it doesn't really disappear. It just 它只是视觉上的不见，但它位置其实还存在的。那 when you want to change it, instead of changing the code in the VS Code, actually you can just do something like this. So this is like quite convenient for you to debug. So we change it to visible, and it just show it. So when you are writing a website, you can change. Instead of changing the code in VS Code and Ctrl S and back to the page, you can just simply change the code here in the F12. So it may help you to quickly find the bug you are. 然后你再 Ctrl V, Ctrl C, Ctrl V， 然后到你的 VS Code 里面的 code 里面就好了。这之前应该有提过啊，就只是算是再帮大家复习一下，就是有这个比较方便的 debug 方式，这样。Okay, so up to here, no questions? Any questions? Alright. 那接下来我们就讲一下 event. So now let's talk about event. But actually, we have just used some event like click event. So during here, like we just say when we click, we hope it to fire up the function which is changed. So during here, we have already used some event. So here we just introduce some other events that has change, mouse over or mouse out, and so on. So I think for here we will just demonstrate the mouse over and the mouse out events here. So before this, we may like take a quick review about our CSS here. So first, we may create a div, and we may have its class to be a container. And what we have called before is inside this, we may conventionally we'll call it box1, right? And we may also call it box2 and whatever. Box3. Oh. Box3. So for here, we just simply create here. And what we have taught before in CSS is we can use like dot container. We change its property of the display to flex, so it will 横向的去显示出来, right? And also for the box here, we may hope its flex to be 1, and we can just simply change it. We may simply have its background color to be like something red, and we may have box2 to have flex also 1, background color to be orange, whatever, and box3 flex also be 1, background color yellow, whatever. Right. So for here, p tab 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here, 这边就只是帮大家简单复习一下，就是我们之前有做过的一些东西。So here is we may also add some properties, something like box1, box2, box3. We may want it to have text align center. So here is just simple what we have learned before. And what we want to demonstrate now is the mouse out and mouse over event. So mouse over is just when we move inside here, and mouse out is we move out of it. 就 mouse over 就进去一个东西，然后 mouse out 就是你鼠标移出来那个动作而已。Okay, so what we want to do here is like when we move in here, we want to change the color of it. When we move out, it back to the color, something like this. So before this, first we may need to write a function to change the color of it. So here we just write a script, and we may create a function which is for the red function, it is just called red, and we may change the document of the, we may get the element by class name, which is box1, and the first box1, and we may change the style of it and change the background color of it to like green, whatever. So this function, what this function does is to change the color of the box1 to green, and to red. Actually, this is red. Yep, and this is green. So the same function here, we just write it again. Document.get element by class name, box1 0.style. We may change the style, and we want to change the background color it to green, whatever. All right. So here's the function, and when we want to fire this function is when our mouse. When our mouse over, we want to change it to another color. So now it's red, so we may change it to green, right? And when we mouse out on MOUSE out, we may change it back to red, something like this. So here we just show what we have done. So when we mouse over, it changed to green. We mouse out, it changed to red. And if you have looked out some web page, you may find out another event which is called mouse enter and mouse leave. It actually works the same, but there's a little difference between the parent and child components. So, but we will not demonstrate here, but just a little bit difference. And whenever I encounter similar questions, I will just look at the web page again. 对，那基本上还有另外一个就是 mouse enter 跟 mouse leave。那基本上的差别就只是你有时候复存元素跟子层元素你叠在一起的时候，你可以同时进去，同时出来。那个时候你到底要先显示子层元素还是复元素？它们的先后顺序的问题而已。对啊，基本上我们这边没有复存元素、子层元素的问题，所以就很单纯。So for here we just simply use mouse over, mouse out. Okay, and let me see what I want to say. Oh, so for here, we may think this is quite tedious. Whenever we write here, we write document.get element and style. There's another simple way for we can write another function, which is what we have red, orange. Okay, we can write a blue function. We can write a blue function, and what we want is if we can just simply change the object, and we want to change the object, the style of the object to blue, something like this. So we can use the parameter here to help us simplify the code here. So what this object wants is when we mouse over, mouse over, and we fire up the function which is called blue, and here we say this. So for the this here, we can say, oh, this div here, and it transferred to here and tells, oh, this the style of this the background color to blue, something like this. So it will actually work. Right? When we go here, it becomes blue, and because I didn't write the mouse leave, mouse out the event here, so it doesn't change back to the orange. So here's just a simple demonstration about the mouse out and mouse leave function, and a little bit review about the this in JavaScript, because this is quite special for JavaScript than other languages, right? Okay, so next we will have a small exercise here. So I have created an exercise here, and let me just demonstrate it here. So for this, it is a black. We change when we press the button black, the word becomes black, and when we press red, it becomes red. And this is what I done. And the exercise what I want you to do now is like you simply use one button, and when it is not black, it turns the word back to black. And if it is not black, and if it is black, you turn it to red. Yeah， 就是简单来说，就只是把两个 button 浓缩成一个 button 之类的。对，就那种感觉，就是what I want you to do here is just to mix two button into one button. Yeah, something like this. So 就简单的what you will use here may be you need to get the object of it, right? And you may need to of course not the forms, and you need to change the style of the HTML. You need to change the color of the word, right? 对，那这边就简单小小的练习，大家可以试试看，就是应用一下刚刚的东东啊。有任何问题也可以直接先问一下，没关系。哦，因为你在那个 attribute 里面，然后这个它自己对，它会让你
在所以现在那一节它才会
对，在那边，它的就是这个 this 它是哪个 this 呢？这多多是讲一下。这小小的地方，
日常一破，那可以是对，一个 basic regulation， 但是基本上就是它是一个
好少算好憨哦！天哪！可是我没有去野营，为什么不去？你不是看起来好朋友？哦，对啊，不能喝酒，
他不能喝，
超难过了。去年直接喝饱，然后找个帅的男生那边听，没有，我没有去。
他不能吃。
对啊，就是发散合作，还是现在降一级了。
然后，所以我这边
昨天吗？
又出现了，很棒。我忘记那个全部帮你讲了，全部的哦。This one? Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, first I think you have to make a test. But it doesn't have to So, let me see here. You need to create a button. 你报北电电，我可以开始所以他我在那个我是看那个，
你知道我队长很担心的。
我真的都在选队长，中国城要选队长，你要选队长。那个那个华山的有一个
22微风。
1月22，你看这样就是。
不是1月22有北商飞的，
北商飞是什么？
校队的名字。
那是我对。哦，连了我就打。
哦，是吗？那我可以，我也可以克掉北商飞啊，我可以卡掉北商飞。
然后你在找打假球吗？还是打假球？
然后就直接打假球。
我有感觉。被讲
我知道，反正我现在。我目前。
说我有个女生，你要不要帮我演一下？
伪娘，台大机械系他们的系中每个人都在穿女服装，干。
对啊。系中，电机系中。
没有机械系，哦，他们机械系一堆人在穿女服装哎，我整个傻眼哎。
我们也可以那个啊，电机周或者说电机之日穿女服装。
太狠了，我看别人，我看别人穿就好。
我看别人穿就好。
哎，你们是应该今天选，我们是今天投票。
对，今天投。
我今天每个猜都是今天投。
对啊，都是今天投。哦。哎，硕专有还有谁？我刚刚还有那个。
硕专没有我们认识的。
谢长崎，硕专。
对，谢长崎是华山。
对。他一定会上来做排选的嘛？做他。
华山。对，想要选华山的宅长更是爽缺了，不是爽缺，就是你一定会上。
就是混宅冲动。
他是要跟那个，他现在是谁？他现在说那个什么？
对，
他这个大家可以提出好的。
我不确定，他是4人吧。我希望选得上，但是我觉得我应该选不上。
我吗？你有？
因为我证件太实际了，就是我就是。
对啊，他们有，你知道我今天投票怎么投的吗？我今天投票是因为他有送蛋挞，我想说，哦，肯德基蛋挞，好，我下去一下。
哎，我的是马布里。
哦，然后我下去，然后我就现在2个人，我都不认识，这看起来好像8+9，然后就选这个。
8点半开票。Style 也是打 style。
点 style 就很奇怪，点 style。
就是 style。
You just do a class, and you just have a class of these. 一开始
哦，
就直接。
哦，你可以直接在这边。
Then my class name is I'm getting these.
然后这个上来就是
So what we do is add an expect listener. So we're going to have to use BTN. And it's on choice. BTN. Add the listener.
说哦，像你讲说你要谁的 color，所以你要跟他讲 P， 然后大括号不容易，给你 P 大括号说起来
BTN.
想起来了，思い出した。
思い出した
就这样讲。
出した。
思い
妈的，那个 T 跟 P 我都搞不清楚，他
塔，我其实是塔。
思いました思いました
就被骂了吗？是骂响了。
I don't know
哦，我还一直在说日文的那个。
我们在讲日文是打还是打思いました马丢丢
马路脸，
马丢丢
因为马路脸比较靠背的地方是，如果你不想要芋头，然后你只要先炒，它先炒不会给你比较多，然后它的水源也很强。
啊你是先炒菜的
哦，没有，之前就是他有一次跟我讲说他没有那个，他没有芋头，然后他就直接从冰箱拿一碗出来，然后也没有跟我加这个芡实，然后就给我。他们我觉得芋头应该值10块钱，干嘛的？就10块你还不给我折30块，但它真的好吃啊，
好吃啊
我觉得很不错啊。但是我觉得金山的那个，我们金山有一家仙草龙，是真的好吃。
金山你说你老家
我老家在基隆，但我去金山。
哦金山街
金山老街那边。
金山老街
金山鸭肉。
金山老街在哪里
只有后面，我记得前两个也是
金山那边。
新竹
新北金山。但是哪里人？你是高雄人吗？
我桃园人
我操，桃园人应该会知道金山吧？
我住太久高雄
那边附近叫什么？万里啊，金山万里桃园。
金山万里哦我说了可以菜我不会讲可以忘记了踹
有日文。
塔该塔哦
我不知道，我不知道怎么笑，因为我看他笑，我就跟着笑。
就是踹，但是说踹台语我不会讲，然后他讲到八成。
他
我知道你不是那个，我只是刚好年纪小。我知道啊。
哦你说那个 try 八成 try
哦 ，try 那个吗？
哦
其实 JavaScript 也有一个方法是写 try， 对吧？他应该教过了。
那个 try 然后 fetch 那个
So I'll just say like what I have done here. So for me, I just write like a change function. So I set a color to the P1 tag. For you, it may be other things or whatever. I get a color of it, and I just see which color it is. If it is black, I change it to red. If it's not, I change it back to black. So that's how we done it. And okay. So by the way, for here we can also. I think for you guys, you may write something. Let's see. You may write the on click. When we click it, you fire up the function here. But actually, you can also implement this concept purely in JavaScript file. So you can also write it here. Like you can say, I get the element, the button element, and when I click it, the function change fires for here. So there's an alternative way for you to write it, and just purely in JS file for you to conveniently manage your file. 就是这个方法可以让你就是动态的部分更全部集中在 JavaScript 里面，然后更好管理之类的吧，就是各取所需，大家有想要这样写都可以这样写。So next, let's talk about event listener. So what we have taught is events. So there are several events, and what is event listener is for when you have an element and you want to add when what event happens, you fire up the function here. So it is like another way for you to write just what we have done before it, and we can just try it here. So I will just use for this one, and I already write it. So for here is what we have here. See? So this is what we have done, right? So when we go in, it becomes green. When we leave, it becomes red, right? So we can also use the method of event listener. So for here, we would, okay, so we may remove this. So because we are not going to write the event inside the HTML file, we want to just purely write it in the JavaScript file by adding an event listener. So for here, we have get element by ID, get the B1, which is this box one. And what we have is when we mouse over it, it fires up the function which change the color of the box one into green. This is what event listener have done. So we can see here again. So this is the event and what function it fires. And we just temporarily omit this. We will just talk about this parameter later. But actually, you can just only write two parameters, which is the event, which is the situation, and the function you want to. So 这边就是大家可以先省略后面这个地方。最重要就是说你在什么情况下你要 fire 这个 function， 大概就是这样子。那这边只是另外一个方式提供大家参考，所以大家可以简单看一下，就是这样也可以完成到一样的效果。All right. And so now let's talk about what matters for the last parameter here. So for here, it is the main difference between the capture and bubble. And for here, just for reference, so 大家可以自己就随便听一下，就这边只是也是一个细微的差别，就是说when we use capture mode, the parent priority will be higher than the child priority. When we use bubble, the child priority will be higher than the parent. So here's an example code for this one. Capture, we'll just use this one. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have done here. So this is also just a simple HTML file which contains two main div. And first is my div 1, my div 2, and it all contains a heading and a paragraph here. So for now, we know that for this one is the parent component, and the P will be the child component here, and also for here. So we add an event listener for these four, for my div, my paragraph 1, my div 2, and my paragraph 2 individually. So for my paragraph 1, when we click, it will alert the child component because this is the child component of div. And for div 1, it will alert parent because it is the parent component. And same for P2 and div 2. 那这边只是比较就很简单，就是说主要有两个嘛，就两个 div， 然后两个 div 里面都一样，都有一个子元素，就 child component 是 P。那所以就是想说，当我按到这子元素的时候，它会显示哦，我是孩子啊。我按到副元素的时候，哦，我是 parent， 这样子。So let's see the difference between here. The first two parameters will be the same. It's quite easy. But the last one we say, oh, this is the false, which called, oh, we are not going to use capture mode. We want to use bubble mode. And for the true, we want to use capture mode. So let's see the difference. For here, we click, oh, it first fires out the child component and the parent component. But actually, we just press the child component and the parent component simultaneously. 我们是同时都按到的嘛？那他们的 priority 就是，哎， 我先 child， 我再 parent. So the priority will be, though we press it parent component and child component simultaneously, but it actually fires up the child component first and then the parent component. This is the bubble mode, right? And for capture mode, if we press it, we also press the parent and the child simultaneously, but it first fires up parent and then the child. So this is just a small reference for you. So not quite important. And for the default value, it is false. So for default, it will be like bubbling. You will first fires out the child function and then the parent function. 对啊，这边就只是大家可以就听听就好，只是跟大家讲一下 event listener 它第3个 parameter 的差别在哪里？但它的 default 它只是 false， 就是代表说它 default 都是 bubbling， 就是说如果你同时按照子元素跟负元素的话，它会优先把子元素的方式给 fire 出来，大概是这样。好，然后就只是小小的补充。那接下来我们就let's talk about nodes. So as we have mentioned, every component in our HTML file element is an object. So here is like a picture that shows it. So the root component will be document, and then we have HTML, which contains head tag and body tag. And what we have mentioned in the first class is the head tag is what we want to talk about to the website, and the body is what we show on the web page here. And it may contains heading, href, or also a paragraph image, and so on. But beware of the element h1 itself does not have the content of the text it shows, but the text node it contains. 就是本身 h1 它并不包含任何东西，它是因为它下面还接了一个 text node， 叫做你可以定义它任何的字串。So this is what I want to emphasize, that element itself does not contain, but the child component of the element, it contains the text, not itself, right? So now we are going to learn that how to create a new node, because from now on we just know that we can get access to it, and we can change but not create, and we can also change the style of it, and we just cooperate with some event. And now we are going to learn how to create a new node. So this is a simple code for you to create. And so first we have a variable. We called it to create an element, which is p tag. So here will be the tag name. So for us, we may want to create a p tag. So we create, but remember the p tag itself does not contain the text. So we also need to declare another txt, which is the text node. So we create text node, which is the inner HTML. You can also consider it like that. And this is the new node of it. So the next step is to connect these two together, because we have paragraph but text, but these two does not have the relationship. And here append child just tells it, the parent component will be parent and the child component will be text. So here you will just like here that the element is the paragraph and the text will be this is new node. Okay, so this is the basic concept about creating a new node. And of course, after creating a new node, it won't show on the body. It won't show on the web page. So here I have an example. So for here, it just shows that, we create a p tag, and this is a new node, and we append child to the paragraph here. And okay, so first, we'll just comment this out. We just see what it shows for now. It shows, okay, it shows 1, 2, 3, just because I only have one div container, and inside this we have a p tag, which is 1, 2, 3. So our this is new node does not show on the body, right? Because we didn't append it to another, which is we may append it to the div. We can also append it to this p tag here. So next we will do is like here, we get the element by ID, we get this div, and then we append the child paragraph to it. So for here, the div tag is here, and we append it. So we append it to the div tag. So 1, 2, 3, and then this is new node. 这基本上就是衔接过来，就是说我把它 append child 到这个 div 里面，然后所以它就跑到它最后，大概是这样。And then you may consider like if I can put it, I don't want to put it back under 1, 2, 3. I want to put it up like beyond 1, 2, 3. So there's another way. Instead of append child, we can say insert before. I want to insert before 1, 2, 3. So I expect this to show above here, right? So the method will be, you can just write document, but you say get element by container, get element by ID container, and we say insert before, and we say we want to insert paragraph here, right? Oh, I forgot. So actually here it's not container. Here we will just we will say body. So actually we can just write. We want to inside the body. We want to insert something, and what we want to insert before is what we have now is the document dot we can get by ID, which is container. So this is how it works. We insert something into body, and we need to tell it what we want to insert before. So before this element, before the container, which is this div. And what we want to insert is this paragraph, and we have already created. So it will work like this. So this is is inside the body, and it is above the 1, 2, 3. This is how it works. Right. So yep, I think that's for today. Yeah. So the most important thing about creating new node is there's two methods, which is append child. It will be under the thing you want to append it, and insert before will be beyond it. Yeah. 大概就是这样。所以when you want to create element, you can try to think about this picture, and then you can say, oh, what I want to put under the h1, so I h1 dot append child and put the element here, or I can insert before, so before h1. Something like that. You can think about this picture to help you to have more constructive, to help you to construct your HTML file through JavaScript dynamically. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it for today. And if you have any questions, you can just ask. Yeah.